So the anatomy of a book haul. Why do we buy the books we do? I have got a huge book haul to share with you. I have been visiting the local charity shop, some super cheap ones around me. This is just over £10 this haul, and I've got 5 stacks of books for just over £10. But rather than just showing you the books, I wanted to think about the anatomy of a book haul. Why do we buy the books that we do? Just looking at all of these books, thinking I've got so many unread books in the house, just why have I bought these stacks of books? And some things kind of came out thinking about that. So I'm going to share the book haul. I'm going to show you what books I bought for £10, and I'm going to share with you my ideas around the whys of the buying, which I don't know, might be interesting. The hair is hairing today, let's just say. So I'm going to start with this pile of books in front of me. I'm going to start with the Brazilian author Paulo Coelho. Why did I buy this book? The Alchemist. It's a title that I recognise. There is a familiarity there. So I think sometimes when we scan a second-hand book section, we will be looking for titles that jump out, whether we feel that the recognition of the title gives it more acclaim or more substance, or whether it's a surer bet, a bit like going for a classic. It's been vetted, it's been spoken about, that's why we know the title. And I think this is definitely why I grabbed this one. I also thought that it might be in the 1001 books to read before you die list, which kind of in the back of my head, along with my DIY literature degree, this is something that I'd like to start ticking off books from. So I suppose in both of those things, recognition of a title of a book or an author's name, or a recognition that it might be on a list somewhere, is me waiting to be given a green light to read. It's looking to other people to say this is worth reading. I think the position I am in at the moment, looking and piecing together a DIY literature degree and looking at the Western canon and looking at classics and looking at degree syllabuses to put together reading lists, I kind of am in a space of being told what's good to read. So that's a good thing. I think it can also be a bad thing as well. But I'm very much in that space of thinking, should this be one of those books that I'm reading? So that recognition of title and of author and of being told what to read kind of came into play there. I think as well, discovering booktube as well, there is an element of us all telling each other what to read within book reviews, within TBR piles of other people. We're constantly hearing other people's opinions about stories and books and poetry, and then deciding from that what we should read. There is kind of that big communal voice about books going on that does, I think, affect our reading. So there was all of that going into play when I grabbed this off the shelf and ignored like the 12 other books on the shelf alongside it. So I picked up that, but then the next day I went into a charity shop, and 3 for £1 I found another 3. So The Alchemist one day, and then The Valkyries, followed by the River Piedra I Sat Down and Wept, and The Devil and Miss Prim. So what made me buy these? Again, the recognition of the author's name this time. I bought this because I recognised the title. These, I thought it's the same author. To be honest, the thing that pulled me to these 3 books was this title here. So again, it's a very poetic, lyrical, inspiring title, which I love. And then I realised it was the same author, and I thought to myself, my gosh, if I love this, for an extra £1, I've got other books then to expand my reading in. So it almost puts a foot then into book collecting. Might I want to read all of the author's books then? And of course you get the enticement of lists of books inside book covers. Here we've got quite an extensive list in the Alchemist of all the books that are there, and I can already see myself looking down the list thinking, oh my gosh, if I like these, I've got all these other books to read as well. A lot going on there. The anatomy of a book haul. Here we've got 1 foot in book collecting around authors. We've got 1 foot in the recognition of authors' names or titles, being told what to read, that idea of a canon or good reading. It's all coming into play there. I did check against the 1001 books list. The Alchemist isn't in there, which I was so surprised about. I really thought it was. And I also found some information that said at some point this book had been banned, which I was amazed about. The Devil and Miss Prim, however, is in there, and there is one other book of his that is also in here, which I don't have. Veronica Decides to Die is the other book. The Devil and Miss Prim is one from that list, which I was really pleased about. Oh my gosh, I've just found another one in the pile as well. So it's not 4 books, it's 5 books. I also picked up the Manual of the Warrior of Light. So you can see my book collecting gene is very happy with all of that. So coming back to that idea of being told what to do, I'm in a space at the moment where I want some recommendations for what might be deemed as good books to read. I'm also thinking with my DIY literature hat on, when I come to do 20th century and the 2000s reading element of my contemporary reading for my DIY literature degree, could I look at the prizes for what makes a good book? So the Women's Prize, the Booker Prize. So I do look for books like this that have been nominated for prizes. So Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These, I think I was really drawn to how beautiful that cover is. The minute I saw the Booker Prize tag at the top, I knew I was going to buy it. Also, I think some of these blurbs that have lots of praise for it. So a genuine, once in a generation writer, stunning, a haunting, hopeful masterpiece, the best novel I read this year, wastes not a word, exquisite. It's going to sway you. So for this, it's that idea of being told what to read by the prizes. I haven't read enough prize nominated literature yet to work out personally for me whether that's going to work or not, but it is why this made it into the book haul. And with that idea in mind, let's go through this huge tower of books. So prize books, that's somebody telling me what to read. My 1001 books to read before you die project. Also even my scratch off poster of the key 100 books in my doll room library. It's all aspects of telling me what to read, and I think this pile kind of ties in along with that. So books like this, Ian McEwan, Atonement. I know for a fact as soon as I saw this that this Ian McEwan book is in the 1001 books to read before you die. I've never read a book by him. I've had this book kind of on my radar, looking for it for the last 3 or 4 months, so I was really pleased to see this. I've got no idea what the story's about. I've never watched the film either, so not only does this introduce me to a new author, which I'm always excited about, but I know it's in the 1001 books to read before you die, so that's why I bought it. Sebastian Faulks, never read any. Faulks, recognise the author's name, so there's that recognition coming into it. The minute I saw Sebastian Faulks on the spine of the book, I know. Then I recognised Birdsong. I remember from flicking through the 1001 books, this is on there. So again, another book on a list, recognition of a name, so I picked it up. And again, another one, looking for classics. So when I first go into a second-hand bookshop or charity shop to the book section, I do a quick scan first over all the shelves. What I'm looking for black spine penguin books. I'm looking for the red spine of vintage classic editions. I'm looking for the penguin, looking for the white spine of the Oxford World Classics. I'm looking for any signs of those different classic editions on the shelf. Doesn't matter what book it is. If it's a classic, at the minute, because of my DIY literature degree, I will pick it up. Then I recognise the author name, Joseph Conrad. Have I ever read any Joseph Conrad at the moment? No, I haven't, but this is a classic. Nostromo, I've got no idea what it's about. I've got no idea where it fits into the grand scheme of the literary landscape. I've got no idea of what time period this is, but I've got a foothold now for reading Joseph Conrad, so I grabbed that. Again with John Bunyan, The Pilgrim's Progress. For this one, I just recognise the title, recognise that this is a classic. Thought that this might be an interesting text to read to open up the doorway to other texts, all part of my DIY literature degree. But the classics label on books is kind of a canon's way of telling us what to read. I found Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall. Again, this is winner of the Booker Prize. For me, I grabbed this initially because a few months ago I also found Bring Up the Bodies, which is the second book in this series. This is the first book, so I was going to pull it anyway because I had got my eye out for it to complete a series. So completing a series is also a part of this anatomy of a book haul. But when I pulled it out and saw the Golden Man Booker Prize and winner of the Man Booker Prize, again, it's one of those books where I'm being told it's worth reading. Also, it fits in with my goals. Some of my goals for this year were to read more historical fiction, or any historical fiction, also mystery fiction. So this fits the historical fiction genre. It's the first book in a series that I've been looking to find. So I've got book 1 and book 2 now. I checked, and it's also in the 1001 books to read before you die list. So lots and lots of recommendations for that. The one I picked up was Schindler's List. A story, a true story that I think lots of us know about. We've all heard of the title Schindler's List. It's also on the 1001 books to read list, so I was interested to get that one as well. Budadar as well, shortlisted for the Orange Prize, shortlisted for the Whitbread Award as well. So I am collecting Orange Prize or Women's Prize books as well. I've got a little pile of oranges over here. I call it my pile of oranges. So that one, again, no idea what it's about, but I grabbed it because it will go on that pile. And then in the children's section, for 10p each, I found some Tolkien. So again, some fantastic classical literature. I have got one more book of this trilogy to find. My trilogy I sold at a car boot sale. I can't believe I did that when I was a teenager, trying to make some money to fund a camera for my art degree. So I've been looking to replace these books, so I've got one more left to find. The Hobbit is a book that I've never managed to get to the end of, so it is a book that I'm looking to have another go with. Both of these are in the children's section, 10p each. No, they were 25p each, so quite a fantastic find. Okay, we're going to move to this pile of books now, which is more sort of children's fiction, fairy tale fiction. So as part of my DIY literature degree, there is a focus on sort of children's literature, and in particular fairy tales. I'm beginning to find some really interesting crossovers between the Victorian literature that I'm reading at the moment and fairy tales, which I think is opening up a whole area of study that I'm quite interested to explore. But currently anything I find that has got different versions of fairy tales, I will buy. So it was a Reader's Digest volume of the world's best fairy tales. Also, it's lovely to buy these for kind of the new illustrations that you get with the books. So all of these different editions will just give you a chance to look at sort of different artworks, which I just think is one of the joys of this. And this book has not only got these gorgeous colour plates in, can you hear my daughter laughing in the background? So there's a number of these colour plates throughout the fairy tale. You've also got these beautiful line drawings by the titles, and then classic children's literature. So these were 25p each. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and The Magician's Nephew. So for me with C.S. Lewis, I've only really read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It would be really nice to extend this out, and I just thought these were just some beautiful editions. So these are HarperCollins editions of the books, and again they come with colour plates in them for the artwork, and they're throughout the book, they're interspersed in the text throughout the book. This is another book I found in the children's section for 25p. This is the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, the illustrated version. Quite an incredible find, I think, of the text. Illustrated throughout, not just with colour plates but with these line drawings. What a amazing find for 25p. This was very much triggered for buying this with the idea of my DIY literature degree, because I am beginning to plan out now new areas of study, thinking past my Victorian reading, going back into sort of medieval literature, all the way back to Old English, going back in time. The Canterbury Tales, Chaucer, is one of those books that I am really keen to explore. This is an edition that is translated into 20th century language, so it doesn't have the original text. So this isn't going to be the only text of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales I want to read. I do want to read it in the original text, but what a lovely introduction or secondary book to read alongside the original text. Had it without the dust cover. I think that is just such a beautiful book. So this is rendered into modern English by J.U. Nicholson. It's Michael O'Mara Books Limited. So far my reading of this work is just limited to what I did for my English A-level decades ago, where we studied The Knight's Tale. So I've read The Knight's Tale and that's it, and that was literally decades ago, but this was quite a find for 25p. Other things in the children's section. This is the second vintage hard copy of an Enid Blyton book that I found in that same charity shop. Enid Blyton is my key author from my childhood. So if I can find Enid Blyton, especially these books which I never read. So I read The Secret Seven, I read The Famous Five, I read Mallory Towers, I read The Wishing Chair and The Enchanted Wood, all of those tales. I never read these mysteries, so nostalgia comes into play here, and I would say nostalgia as well comes into play with me trying to find Terry Pratchett again. I'm trying to replace Discworld novels. Nostalgia, because when between the ages of 20 and 30 I lived with a man who I was in a relationship with, and he was a massive Terry Pratchett fan, and through him I read, I think, probably about the first 12 Discworld novels and loved them. Of course, when I left that relationship, I left all the books and the Discworld magic behind. And for a long time I thought I would like to replace them, so I've been looking out for Discworld novels. This is the second one I found in about a year of hunting. They're not very common to find, so I pounced on that. So nostalgia comes into play in this Anatomy of a Book haul. I suppose in a way you could say nostalgia comes into play when you're buying picture books. For me, there is nostalgia with, sometimes I'll buy a picture book because it's a book that I used to read my own children and it's since gone missing, or sometimes it might be a book that I used to teach around as a primary school teacher of the 5-year-olds. But this also links to my artistic love. My degree was in art. I'm a trained artist. I love picture books, not only for the simplified down life lessons that they provide, but also the artwork. I think picture books are just so magical. So I found The Gruffalo's Child, another Julia Donaldson book. I'm getting quite a collection of Julia Donaldson books. I also found The Polar Express. These were all 10p each, guys, but the artwork in The Polar Express is just phenomenal. So you can see when I go into a charity shop, I will go to the toy section and look at the picture books. I'll go to the children's book section and look at the children's books. Everything is a possibility. I found Anthony Brown's Gorilla. Look at the artwork on that. And when you are only looking at 10p each for these books, it is very easy to just pick up whatever you want. So for me, this artwork kind of reminded me a little bit of Peter Blake. If you are familiar with the artwork of Peter Blake, that's kind of sort of really rich colours and that kind of real clear, the clear style of it just reminded me of Peter Blake, who's one of my favourite artists, so I loved that. Another Julia Donaldson book, Charlie Cook's favourite book, which I have never heard of, but it's another one for the Julia Donaldson collection. This one looks great. I haven't read any of these yet. The Odd Egg by Emily Gravett, and it's one of these that flip open, which I love. This was bought for nostalgia. We're going on a bear hunt. This I had with the kids as part of a big board game set. We've still got the board game, even though the box has completely fallen apart. At some point the book went missing from the board game, but this is one that I read over and over. We played the game over and over. I used to chase the kids around the house shouting this story. It is real nostalgia for me. This is my mama head on buying that. Another Julia Donaldson's book, Room on the Broom, this classic. I have a Witchlit Anytime tag going with my friend Julie. I am really interested in doing a study on the portrayal of witches in children's literature, so I've been looking for this book for a while. So not only does this tap into my artistic love, it also taps into my pagan spiritual practice, but it is something that is tipping into my DIY literature degree studies as well. So I was really excited to find that one. And lastly, this one, Claude the Magnificent, the rise and fall of him even. Again, I bought this for the artwork. I just loved the colour palette of the artwork. It looks like this might even be pencil drawn, which is unusual in picture books. I just loved that gentle style of the artwork. So picture books and nostalgia and revisiting and studies again. So that's what I bought all of those for. So wearing different hats to buy books, I think that is a big thing as well. I know that these next two books I bought with scholarly hats on, but also with my mom's hat on. So The Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley, I've never read it. It's a short play. I haven't read that many plays either, but it's also the play that my son is studying for his GCSEs, which he takes next year. So in order to offer him a bit more support with that, to be able to question him and support his revision of that, then I need to have read it. Also, this edition has got lots of notes in as well, already made by somebody else that's studying it. It might be a useful edition for him as well to read. So 2 different hats, so we can wear different hats to choose our books with, scholarly or a motherhood hat. Now this gem, this was 50p, this is the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations. This is an absolute gem of a book. So you've got quotations from different aspects of literature, different books, different authors, all their key quotations. So the main body of the book is organised either around books, so you've got, say, a section around the Bible, or it's mostly arranged around authors, so Shakespeare, Morley, Byron, Twain, big sections organised. So if you're just exploring a certain author, you can go to that section of the book. But the thing I loved about this book is the back part of the book is a huge dictionary, where if you're just looking for keywords and you want quotes with those keywords in, you can go to the dictionary at the back and you can search the keyword and then find a list of where all the quotes with that keyword are. So you can do it via like emotions, like anger or sadness or tears, or you could search it, say, for love or music, and you get the quotations from that. So you can search the quotations from 2 different angles. So for me, trying to get back into essay writing to support my literature studies, I thought this would be so useful to have on my shelf. Just if I was searching out quotes that I need. So that one, I grabbed that one. Definitely that one was with my scholarly hat on. Right, the last pile of books. I have one last pile of books I want to go through. I'm just going to grab each book and say why I bought them, see if we can find any other reasons why I might have bought these books. So these 2 are both historical novels. So you've got a book about Boudica. This is not only literary goals for this year, read more historical fiction, but it also kind of links in with some of the studies I'm doing around that idea of church power and the development of the church and goddess worship and paganism, and like that idea of the strong woman, that the idea of rebel women is coming up a lot in my Victorian reading. So that idea of the outcast woman, the woman that doesn't fit in societal norms, really fits in with that. This also is about slavery in Algiers, all around a real historical event. So that kind of keyed in with my literary goals. Recognising titles, that's why these 2 got bought. Looking for Alaska, I didn't realise that this is a YA book. I think young adults, might even be a children's book, but I recognised the title and grabbed that. And The Perks of Being a Wallflower, a modern classic, I recognised the title for that one. As with these next 2, The Slap, I recognised the title of that. I thought this might have been on the 1001 books to read before you die list, but it isn't. I also loved this edition. I loved how modern the book is. Don't judge a book by its cover, they tell you, but I think I kind of did with this. It's also like a lovely floppy edition, so I grabbed that. A Child Called It, I really loved this hardback edition. It's a really nice size, a title I see a lot. I know this is tough subject matter, but I bought it because I recognised the title. And then other books, I bought Fated because I picked up another book from this series, but I was looking for book 1. This is book 1, which I found, so I grabbed that. This one again, I loved the modernness of this cover. I loved the edition again, the motion of the body through space. It looks like a book about running. I am a ex-marathon runner that really wants to get back into running if I can just get my health back again. So this, I suppose it's nostalgia, the idea of being a runner, a subject matter that I like. That's why I grabbed that one. That was my runner's hat on. Fantasy, I loved the cover of this. Stories by Lisa Turtle. This was a book just bought purely because I love the sound of the blurb. My hat of having a caravan by the ocean and liking to find ocean books. I found Joanne Harris Coastliners. This was very much a book bought because it looked coastal. And lastly, Walks in Shakespeare Country. Talking about a health hat on, trying to get back to a point where I can run again. If you want to run and you can't run yet, the first starting point is walking around Shakespeare Country. I live right on the edge of Shakespeare Country. I'm very often in Stratford. Walks around Stratford, that was a no-brainer. So that's it, guys. Quite a substantial book haul for just over £10. But lots and lots of reasons for buying that haul. Lots of reasons that edge into book collecting, that edge into the idea of being told what to read. Lots of different hats that we wear when we book buy. I just find that really interesting to go through what is quite a substantial haul and to think about the whys of it. So perhaps if you do a book haul, think about the whys. It would be really interesting to know what some of your whys are. Do you get lost in book collecting? Do you get lost in nostalgia? Do you have different hats that you put on that make you buy certain books when you're wearing that hat? What books do you bring in when you put your curiosity cloak on? It would be really interesting to know. If you break down a book haul like this, then do tag me and let me know you've done it, because I'd love to know what your anatomy of a book haul looks like too. So thanks guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.